This guy called into LBC to say he doesn't want asylum seekers and boatloads of men coming here, and surprise, surprise, the LBC presenter predictably called him racist.
But you know what, Nick in Holland Park? I hope you enjoy your afternoon. Draw up the drawbridge, because would you believe it? You heard it here first on LBC from Nick in Holland Park. 3/4 of the global population is amassing in France to invade. Not really. All I can say is, racist is as racist does.
The fact is that much of the country agree with him for the most part. She shouts racist because she has no cohesive argument against him, or she lacks the intelligence to articulate it. Seems her liberal worldview tells her his view is reprehensible. The woke religion often does the thinking for its followers. It's the case with most cults. He specifically asks her how many people should be allowed to come here.
We go back to the central point, Sangeeta, which is how many people do you think, from all the ills in the world, the number of people in terrible, war-torn, famine-stricken countries, we should say you can apply and come to live here? I just say there's far too many of them, unless we're going to have a rational discussion about what is the right number, what is a reasonable number, if any. I think it should be none. That would help our economy in the long run.
We have a labour shortage, Nick. We don't have enough people in this country doing the jobs that we need done. We have 9 million people who are currently economically inactive. We have 1.7 million people who are unemployed. The government is struggling. The government is struggling currently to negotiate proper settlements with public sector workers. But part of the problem here, the underlying issues here in public services is the vast shortfall in people doing the jobs. That means people in public services are under huge amounts of strain. Huge. And a lot of that is because British people are simply economically inactive, Nick.
Surprise, surprise, she has no response to it. I get exactly the same whenever I ask the same question. 1 million, 50 million, 500 million? Are we meant to have no objections even if it was 500 million coming here? It's probably because she knows her view is the one that is racist. Racist against the British people. It's racist to tell a tiny country like ours that as many people who want to come here should be allowed to, and you soon may be a minority in your own country. But shut up and accept it. It's not up for discussion. It's also racist to tell them they must dilute their culture and abandon their customs in favour of all the customs and cultural practices people bring with them. I honestly can't think of anything more racist. How about telling everyone coming here, you need to leave your customs and culture at the border? She'd say that's racist. So if our way of life becomes less and less in our own country, how is that less racist? She also expresses her hatred for Britain and its past.
I'd argue you get a better lifestyle in Germany or Italy or France.
Understood. Why do they speak the English language, Nick?
Who?
The 2/3 of the world's population that wants to come here. Why do they speak English? What is it?
Because of the Americans.
Is it?
And it's because it's the international business language and the international language of the internet and entertainment.
Is it because people like me are over here because Britain, 100 years ago, were over there?
Actually, it's not quite why most of the world as a second language or first language speak English.
So when 3/4 of the world was coloured pink, do you remember those maps?
Because the British
had colonised 3/4 of the world.
Yeah,
when the world's map was coloured pink, do you think that the British Empire went over there and adopted the local languages? Do you think that's what happened, Nick? Or do you think perhaps...
No, they used it as a point of apartheid and purposely didn't want locals to learn to speak English.
And that's because they wanted to use them to run the empire, like my ancestors were.
Everyone in the world speaking English.
We went there, so we can't complain everyone is now coming here. You went there and changed their country, so you're getting a taste of your own medicine. Tough luck, it's revenge time. That argument is an acknowledgement of the fact mass immigration is a net negative for us. She literally never gives any argument for why the world should be allowed to come here. She just hands on to individual points he makes.
We should be responsible for letting anyone apply for asylum who basically lives somewhere horrible. You're talking 2/3 of the population of the planet. And it's totally untenable.
Wait, two-thirds of the population of the planet want to come here? Is that what you've just said?
Yes.
Based on what?
Somewhere horrible. And if they were free to do
Two-thirds
so,
of the planet?
Yes.
Wait, there are 7 billion people in the world.
Yes.
Sorry. Just to get this really clear, you're suggesting that 5 billion or so want to come to Britain?
If it was made easy and they could simply tick a box and say, I've got a horrible life for whatever
What, the
reason
whole
it
of the
is,
United States wants to come to Britain?
they're obviously not counted in there.
What, the whole of... Hang on, but you said 2/3 of the planet, not me.
Yes.
So the whole of the
2/3
United
of the
States wants to come to Britain.
No, 2/3.
South America? Does everybody from South America want to come here?
Yeah.
Really?
I would say at least half
Just
the
double checking that.
population,
We're talking about
90%
North
of
and
the
South.
population.
Okay, got you.
No.
And what about the whole of the European Union? Are they interested? The ones that we've just jettisoned?
They're a tiny population compared to and the United States.
Right. So when you said 2/3 of the population wants to come to the UK, you didn't mean 2/3 of the population of the world. You didn't really mean 2/3, did you?
I absolutely did. You know the demographics of where all the people in the world live.
Wait for this. The whole of China wants to come to the UK. Does it?
Absolutely. If you made an open invitation to say anyone in China.
Is that?
Sorry.
He did say 2/3 of the world wants to come here. I'm not sure of the veracity of that. He may well be wrong, but it doesn't matter. All we need to know, and we do know for a fact, is that there are millions of people who do want to come here and cannot be allowed to. More than enough to be considered unsustainable. Numbers that would undoubtedly and irreversibly negatively impact our country. And to say being against mass immigration is racist is factually incorrect. Flat out nonsense. And just another way to shut down those they disagree with. I know people who are a product of refugees, people whose children and grandchildren are fully assimilated into Britain, born and raised here and call this place home. It's the only country they've ever known and loved. People who would take up arms tomorrow to fight for this country if Russia or anyone else invaded. Their families came when things were different. Decades ago, came in small numbers with a desire to fit in and be accepted from the off. They certainly weren't calling for Sharia law in Britain, let me assure you of that. I was talking to one such person whose family came here as refugees from Vietnam in the 70s. He told me he was working away, can't remember what town, but he went into a pub to watch the football and for a pint, and someone came up to him and said, "We don't want your kind in here." Now that is racism. Being against mass immigration is not the same as racism. The progressive left will use any argument to justify never-ending immigration. The fact is, it's time to pull up the drawbridge to all but a small select group of people. We also need to start deporting all those who have no right to be here and degrade our country. The current level of immigration is unsustainable, too high, and just not wanted. Stop shoving it down our throats against our will.